What's up, you guys? So today I am going to talk a little bit about celery juice. I am going to start back up, probably not full throttle, but maybe 3 to 4 times a week drinking celery juice. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about why I do that. It is not for weight loss. So FYI, if you're like, oh, how does it help you lose weight? It does not help you lose weight, okay? Celery juice can help you, let me set you here, get hydrated, help you with adrenal fatigue, just kind of really help your functions. Your kidneys function a lot better because it kind of detoxes them. It purifies them. It just really does a lot of work there. It also helps the liver. Like there's so many things that it helps with. And for me personally, last year when I was training for this same competition, afterwards I was dead, like dead. I couldn't get up for simple things. I couldn't stay awake for like more than 2 or 3 hours at a time. And I realized after doing some research that I had adrenal fatigue. So when you're working out heavily all the time, your body releases adrenaline to help you cope with the stress that you're putting it under. And so, like I don't know if I mentioned it in here or somewhere else, but your body cannot tell if your body is being stressed out because you're being chased to help you save your life, or if it's just a workout and you're really safe. So what it does is it releases those flight or fight hormones. And those flight or fight hormones take a huge toll on your body. They really drain you because it gives you everything you've got. So when you're taking, even though you're taking pre-workout and things like that, it is still pushing you to release that adrenaline, to release those hormones. And that is really hard on your body because it makes you give it all you've got. And if you do that for a prolonged period of time, you stress your body out, you strain it, it gets very tired, and it has to find a way to come back for it. And if you're eating healthy and you're doing all that stuff, it helps some, but for an extended period of time, like 12 weeks of hardcore training, it's hard on your body and it needs to recover. So it'll essentially start shutting you down. And that's what was going on with me. And the more that I read about it, the more that I learned about it, I was like, oh my God. And celery juice was one of the things that helped me with it. It helped purify my liver and my kidneys and all the areas that had excess hormones and toxins built up from all the stress that I was putting my body under. Granted, I was not eating shitty, I was working out and eating healthy foods, but your body will still accumulate toxins caused by the stress. All right. So anyway, I'm going to show you really simply that I have my celery here. Ooh, there's my celery, and it's not complicated. I just chop it up, throw it in a blender, and I use a strainer to just a simple, like not a colander, like a sift, something that you would use for your flour. You can use a cheesecloth, that's also really good. Or if you have a juicer, you can totally just throw it in there, a food processor or juicer, and it'll obviously do its job. It's a juicer, right? That's what it's for. You do chop up the whole thing. I think I got a really big stock today, and you drink it on an empty stomach. So it's on an empty stomach, and then 15 minutes later, you can eat. And so that's for it to be able to get through and be processed through your stomach because it's a liquid, and that's about the time it takes for your body to process any kind of liquid. It'll start kind of get a head start before your food and all that to get processed in your body. So I'm just gonna put it in my blender, and I feel like I've chopped up a really big stalk. I was drinking this every day, probably for 3 or 4 months to fix my adrenal fatigue completely. And I'm starting to feel some effects, so I am going to start incorporating it again just to make sure that, I'm hydrated, I'm detoxing my body, I'm balancing things out. I'll share more about this in my stories if you want to follow my stories. I do follow the medical medium, and this is where I got a lot of my information from. And I was like skeptical in the beginning. I was like, there's no way. But I was so desperate then, you guys, so desperate to just feel better that I was willing to do anything that was healthy. And maybe considered some unhealthy alternatives. I didn't do anything unhealthy, but I thought about it. I was like, well, I don't know what it could be. And this really did make a huge difference. It took me probably a week to start noticing a huge difference. It was a gradual process, just like the fatigue. The onset of fatigue is a gradual process. You know, you don't notice it right away, but you do slowly start to notice you're super tired and you can't get everything done and you're just feeling really drained and that kind of thing. And so I'm starting to feel that already, and I wish I would have paid more attention to my body last year and listened to it a little bit more so that I could have avoided it altogether. But it's a process, right? It's a learning process. So hopefully this is helpful to you if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm always tired, I never have energy for any of that stuff. Number one, check your diet. If you're eating shitty foods, you're gonna feel like shit. But if you're following a healthy meal plan and you're exercising very strenuously, or you're under a lot of stress at work, or you're under a lot of pressure, then you might want to consider checking to see if you have some adrenal fatigue symptoms, because it is really hard to tell. Throw some celery juice in the mix every morning and see if that doesn't improve. Make sure, if your eating is in check and you're hydrated like I was and it's still not going away, this might be an issue for you. I also had to detox from metals because I was consuming a heavy protein diet and I was eating more fish and things like that. And I also did a metals detox because, you guys, those foods have toxins in them and you've got to get them out of your system. Your liver does an okay job when it can if it's not under stress, but if you're putting it under heavy stress from workouts and from work and from kids and just life, it gets overloaded. So it is common for you to get that fatigue and just have way too much of those toxins built up in your system. So check that out. There are healthy ways to purify your body and cleanse it so that it is not, so overworked and overwhelmed, and so that you're not so drained. Anyway, I'm about to get to blending this business and I'm going to drink my celery juice. I hope this video is helpful. If you're catching this on the replay and you have questions, drop me any questions that you have in the comments below. And of course, if you've tried the celery juice and done that business before, let me know. I want to know what your experience was.